lot of hand controls, and got a little leg support up here, and then the steering wheel, I've got all the controls on it, and you can see these red things on both sides, which are little arm supports, which I'll explain. Start out again, what holds my legs is just some aluminum, a little trough I built. I glued foam to it so it all just sits in, and the foam kind of locks into the little tubes running through the frame, and your weight holds it in. And again, I mounted it on foam so I wouldn't affect the stiffness of the go-kart and, you know, affect its handling. The hand controls on this, this time I took a steering wheel off of a Honda 350 FL. They didn't have master cylinders that mounted up on the steering wheel when they built those. So they used cable-operated levers for their brakes. So I was able to use the way the clutch, just what they used for the front brake without any modifications. And this is the clutch cable running out here. I did have to machine a little piece to hold the cable adjuster to fit into the steering wheel. And I basically just took two CR250 clutch cables, cut the insides out of them, joined them together, and at these adjusters, you can see right down here, these are the adjusters, and you're able to just take two cables and join them together like down in these areas, the outsides, and you have to make a new inside cable for the whole length. But that left me with two adjusters in the cable so I can adjust out the slack. And I needed to use two of them to get enough length to run up to the front of the cart. You can see where I got everything coming out through these holes. And again, the idea is to set it up so you can take the steering wheel off, because that's the only way I can get in the cart. And again, this is just the thumb throttle that operates off for the steering wheel on a 350 Odyssey, and in this case I used the throttle cable off of a Honda 400 or FL 400 Pilot. Then what I did is I just got a cable. This is like a boat control cable, and you can probably get this stuff even at a kart shop for people who use butterfly shifters. And I built a shifting mechanism that all mounts up on the steering wheel, and this rod coming out here is just to hold the cable coming out. And then I've got a linkage built back here that moves back and forth right here, and the end of the cable sitting right up here on the top of that. And this thing pivots about this top part, which I've got bolted into the steering wheel. And I got two nuts, or bolts, I'm sorry, down here that bolt in, so it's just locked in between these and it pivots back and forth. And the way I set it up, well, it's probably best to go around to the back of the go-kart where we can look at the controls. Okay. You can see here this steering wheel. The way I did it is the brakes are sitting on this side. So I figured if you're not going to need the brakes when you're on the gas, and that's when you'd be upshifting. So this is how you upshift. You just pull back on it. That'll take you to a higher gear. And then I put the downshifter on this side because I figured I'd be on the brakes anytime I'm downshifting. So you just grab onto this, and that's your downshift. And it just pivots in between those. And then what I did for the brakes is this side of the steering wheel was set up again to use cable actuated arm like over here for the clutch. And these are two master cylinders off of an FL 400 Pilot. And I bolted the two master cylinders together, and then I just cut the steering wheel out and rebuilt this end of the steering wheel so I could run two bolts through and bolt this in. Why don't you come around to the front? Then what I did over here is they're just like little hand actuated levers, or levers, something similar to a motorcycle. And there's two of them here, and I just welded a bar going across, and I cut this lever off here. So when I pull, that bar pulls both of them at the same time. And then the way I get my brake bias is I drill a hole all the way through this lever, and then this screws in and hits the what drives the master cylinder piston in there. And I can sit and turn this in or out to give more bias to the front brakes, and that's how I get it to where if I want the rear to brake more or the front to brake more. And so as you pull that, they just both work together like that. And then these cables, all I did was I called a Tony Kart dealer, and they have a long, asked them for the longest cables that Tony Kart makes. And I'm using back at the back here just the same cable, and I'm just running up. And I just had to add one more cable to give me the swing up to come to here. And then for the front brakes, they've got a T sitting underneath the gas tank. And I took another one of those long cables and just hooked it on here, or hydraulic lines, I guess I should be saying. Hooked it on here, and that's what's running up here. And then I've just got two of them taped together running up. But there's one master cylinder for the front and one for the rear. And then I ended up putting a steel plate on the top to just stiffen it up, take some flex out of the system. It tended to flex a little bit. And this is just a shot of just the other side of the steering linkage, where you can see the control arm coming up, and you can just see how that pivots back and forth like that. And I think you can probably see just from that. And all I did is I just took a trash can, cut it up to make a little fairing that bolts down over this. And I don't have a nut on it right now, but that's just to kind of cover it up, make it cosmetic a little bit better. And then the way I mounted the steering wheel is the Tony Karts just have a hole in their steering shaft. So all I did was just took some thick, it's about 1/4 inch thick aluminum, welded it on, heliarced it onto the steering wheel right up there, and then I had drilled 3 holes. You can see them in here. That was so I could have some adjustability in the steering wheel. And then all it is I lined the hole up for the hole that's in the steering shaft. Just drop the bolt through, put a nut on the other side, and it's locked down. And the only other thing I did is I did take some JB Weld and filled the steering column down a couple inches, so when I tighten this bolt up, I don't crush the steering column. The JB Weld gives it a little bit of strength, keep it from crushing. But again, this is all set up that you pop this bolt out, the steering wheel slides right off, it's out of your way and you can get in. Because I haven't been able to figure out a way to get into a kart with the steering wheel on. And then the other thing that this go-kart has on it, these little red things, these are so I can get my arms out and on that. I'm paralyzed at up to a T4, which is like my arm, I don't have any function up to my armpits. And I didn't have problems on the clutch carts, but when I went to the shifter carts, I had problems that my body flopped around a lot because of the massive acceleration and turning forces. So what these do is when I'm turning, when I turn hard, it throws it out and I can get my elbow out on these. Now I can hold my body up with my elbows. Otherwise I just lean way over the side of the seat and I can't control it. And all I did over here was build one that just bolted onto the top of the motor. And you can see the foam's all ripped up from my arms being on that too. So those get used quite a bit. And then the seat I'm using, again, it's a Pro Group seat sold by American Power Sports. And again, I need the support of the seat because I have no torso capability, so I really get thrown sideways when I'm turning and stuff. You might want to just go ahead and shoot kind of in close. All I did was put like a tube half cut out so it's half rounded, and it'd lay on the frame, and I just hose clamped it onto the frame, and then I'm picking up off the seat bolt there to hold it. And that it's not the stiffest thing, but it's enough to give you arm support to keep you from flopping. And then I just ended up mounting my water gauge on the side of my fairing there, because I couldn't mount it up on the steering wheel, because I need to have the steering wheel come off and on. And the shifter carts are quite a bit to handle. The clutch carts I never had that much problem. Where we race, it's a little sprint track, and I can run about middle of the pack on it, but in 8 to 10 laps I'm exhausted, because you're hanging on. When you go around a turn, your body gets thrown, and you get your elbows out on that to kind of hold you, but you're also hanging on as hard as you can on the steering wheel. And so your wrists get quite a workout and everything. So I would only suggest that if you're in fairly decent shape and you want a real challenge, because these controls are kind of complicated. It took me about 6 months to really get the hang of it where I could drive good. And then, like on starts, you pull in the clutch, but then you're working the thumb throttle, so with your thumb you're working the gas, but then you're feeding the clutch with the other hand. So getting good starts is kind of tricky, because you're trying to, work those two together, and at best I get average starts. And that's just one little